Today on With the First Pick, Rick, we're going to talk about the fastest player in combine history. But first, let's start with this. It's the unofficial Chris Spielman Day here on With the First Pick because
there are 54 days until the 2024 NFL Draft, and my brother Chris Spielman wore number 54. So we're celebrating from a closet in Debo's hotel room.
So the sets have been torn down. There's only 1 day left of the combine. This is now Saturday night after the quarterbacks have thrown, the wide receivers have run, and there's literally nothing left in the convention center in terms of media. The media radio row is gone. Our set's gone. The podiums are gone. So we had to reconvene here in Debo's relatively spacious hotel room where, as I joked earlier, not really a joke, it's 78 degrees. So we'll get through this quickly, but let's start with Xavier Worthy, and then we'll talk about the quarterbacks and then the wide receivers. And I mean, quickly, the wide receivers, is this the best group ever?
Yeah, no, I think I counted 9 guys that ran under 4.4, 8 or 9 guys. So they put on a show today. And before we get started, it's all those kids that came in and worked out. They should be highly regarded for their ability to participate and as competitive spirits. Some of them performed better than others, but they all went out of there and competed.
I'm going to recommend next year and going forward. And tell me again, who's the director of the combine?
Jeff Foster.
I'm going to ask you to get in touch with Jeff Foster and perhaps hand out Rick Spielman commemorative necklaces, like medals for competing in the combine. But Xavier Worthy, you have to start there. He ran 4.21. His first unofficial time was 4.25.
5.
And everyone was like, oh, sweet mercy. You were in the stadium. Were there any, and you've been in football for 30 plus years, were there any surprising reactions from folks around you?
Yeah, in the past, there's never been fans in the stadium.
That's true.
And I was here when Dion ran the fastest time I've ever timed before. And he continued to run and ran right out of the stadium through the tunnel. I looked at the end of the tunnel where he was running. They actually had the doors shut. So, but it was funny. I don't know if he knew he broke the record, but as he finished, he continued to sprint towards where the fans were in the back of the end zone, and people were going nuts.
It's funny you say that because I was listening to the NFL Network broadcast with Daniel Jeremiah and Rich Eisen, and they were saying, like, when Dion ran and even when John Ross ran, he may not have known right away. And sometimes that's why those players back in the day would run twice. I think Xavier Worthy knew pretty quickly. Maybe not when you saw him get through the finish line, but he circled back around. He took that lap he talked about, came back with some other wide receivers. You could see on television, they were watching him. They already watched the replay on someone's phone. And one of the wide receivers said, go ahead and take your shoes off. I think he realized then that 4.22 was a record by John Ross in 2017, I believe. So he laced the shoes back up, Rick, ran a 4.21 official. And after that, he took the rest of the afternoon off. How'd you feel about that?
Yeah, no, he proved what he wanted to prove, to be the fastest human being coming out in the NFL draft this year. And I'm sure the routes and everything else that he'll do, he'll finish out down at Texas's Pro Day.
So let me take you back to that wonderful 2-round mock draft we did where I rightfully took Graham Barton, number 32 overall to the Chiefs, and got mocked by both you and Chiefs fans. I own that. But early in the second round, I took someone named Xavier Worthy, I think, to the Patriots, and you also mocked me. Would you now like to take this opportunity to apologize?
What? I'm mocking you. The guy is fast. I mean, I don't think he's a first-round talent.
I had him going
you don't
40.
Move guys up in the draft just because of how fast they run. Although that was an exciting time, and congratulations to him. I'm still going to go back, and all the teams will still go back and evaluate what they did on tape.
Yeah, another time, I think I had him going 40. Is 40 too high?
No, he's going to go in the second round, and probably with this time, he's probably going to definitely move up.
And the concerns, we talked about it all fall, is that he had focus drops both this year and the year before. I thought he got better this year. I thought he played way tougher than his weight. There was noted on the on the telecast, that Brian Thomas Jr., who you love and ran in the 4.3s, weighs more than 40 pounds more than Xavier Worthy. So that's how light Xavier is. I'm not sure exactly what he weighed today, but he played about 166, which is slight of frame. But he plays much tougher than that. And obviously he has legit breakaway speed to the point that he now is the fastest person in combine history. There's no no.
You get the what it?
No. He's going to go 40.
Okay.
$1.
I'll stay below 40.
You mean 40
$1.
40 or higher?
Yeah. Yeah. Is that lower?
40 or closer to the third round and beyond.
He'll go 40, and then it goes 41, 42. He's going to go towards that way instead of 39, 38. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm taking that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know it's been 6 days. It's long.
Well, 40 to 41 is higher. Yeah.
Not if you're looking at it. It's
Upside
going,
down?
yeah, no. But if someone goes 40
Yeah.
and then someone goes 41, isn't he going lower in the draft than 40?
Yes, he's going after. But yes, I understand what you're saying.
It's kind of like golf.
But the exact opposite. All right. Debo's made note of that. You got to hear Debo's voice from his hotel room here. All right. So we agree. It's funny. And this will come in as no surprise to you, Debo. But Rick said to me today after 6 days together, he goes, look, I don't even hear what you say. I just disagree. And then we circle back later and sort it out. So I think that's right. All right. Let's talk about the quarterbacks. I don't think there were any bad quarterback performances today. No. Spencer Rattler ran a 4.98. I was hoping for a 4.48. Didn't get there, but that's okay. All the quarterbacks threw extremely well. Let's start with the guy who was most impressive, and Debo was in the stadium for this as well. What were your thoughts of Joe Milton, who threw the ball close to 80 yards, even though you didn't want to hear about that as a bold prediction?
Yeah, no, he threw it over 70. But I'm not so worried about some of the accuracy and some of the missed throws as I am watching them drop, because a lot of times you don't see them do that in college. So a couple of them had to take drops like they were taking a drop from center. And that was the thing I was watching. I was watching their footwork. And Joe Milton, some of these guys, it's almost like they're out at the playground and shooting 3 points, so they're taking their time.
Right.
And then throwing a ball, where then you look at a J.J. McCarthy or even a Michael Penix Jr., who are on time and in rhythm when they're taking their drops and throwing the ball. And but Joe Milton, there was no question, had the biggest arm out there.
And there's nothing to take away to your point of hitching 2 times to throw the ball as far as possible, because that doesn't translate to anything other than a parlor trick. Yeah, right. But it was impressive. It was an impressive physical feat, and it was fun to watch, but it doesn't necessarily translate. Let me ask you this, because I've talked to 2 different scouts over the last few weeks who would take Joe Milton 4th, 5th round solely on the athletic traits, even though it hasn't always translated either Tennessee or in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, no, when you're down in that area to take a swing on a quarterback because of his size, because of his arm talent, because of his athleticism, you have to take shots down there on some quarterbacks. So I can see that very easily happen just because of his unique physical traits and his unique arm talent. The biggest issue I have is how quickly he can process.
Right.
But at least you have some tools to work with, and he definitely has all the tools you need physically in the toolbox.
We don't have him officially listed as a winner, but I thought Bo Nix did pretty well too.
Yeah, like I said, I wish I could sit here and say, you know, one of them did not belong here. All of them belonged here. All of them competed. All of them threw the ball, and there was not one quarterback in my mind that embarrassed themselves.
So Michael Penix, fantastic season. Michael Penix was average at the Senior Bowl like every other quarterback, not named Spencer Rattler. But Michael Penix, I thought, did some really good things, throwing to guys who he didn't know. He was throwing lasers on the outs and the deep outs that he did all season long. And I thought his footwork looked pretty good too.
Yeah, his footwork was great. And just to watch him throw live, how the ball comes out of his hands. And he has, I think, maybe the biggest hand of all the quarterbacks. I remember when we had him on set and his hand was over his knee, and his fingers went from his knee almost down to his ankle, how long his fingers are. But he had a really smooth stroke, quick release, no wasted motion, and can put some velocity on the throws that he made today.
Does he get drafted before or after Xavier Worthy?
That's going to be it'll be interesting.
All right, we'll circle back to that one. I still think he has first-round talent. Can you tell me again why he's not a first-round pick if the medicals are cleared? You made a good point earlier this week. There's only so many times you can tear your ACL, because each time you tear it, and you get a new tendon, and I understand all that, but the bones, the cartilage, all that other stuff is affected too.
The only thing that I would say is that if teams have them at the top of the second, and if someone moves up to the 31st, 32nd pick to get that 5th-year option. We did that when we drafted Teddy Bridgewater. You saw that with Lamar Jackson. Baltimore moved up to get that 5th-year option.
Yep.
So I could see him going in the first round if no one takes him. But when you get into that low 20s, high 20s,
Yeah.
low 30s, and someone wants to make sure they take a swing at him and get that fifth-year option, especially if they need a quarterback in the way he performed today. And I think he will continue to spiral up as he goes through this process. The only real knock on him was that national championship game, but he was getting pelted pretty good.
Right. And I said tendon, I should say ligament. That's the ACL is that right there in the title. So I don't want to get people yelling at me about that. I'll tell you a fun fact that you're not going to find fun. My ACL is replaced with a cadaver Achilles.
Boy, I can sleep better tonight.
There you go. All right, let's talk about the winner of winners among the quarterback winners, and everyone there was out there popping for us. But JJ McCarthy, your new favorite crush.
That's not new.
Right. The fact you get to meet him in person, that part's new. I think it enhanced the crush that you've had for quite some time. He continues to be super charismatic, which we knew after speaking with him. He measured 6'2.5". His hands were 9 inches. You said that's bigger than 8, so that's fine. I think that was takeaway there. I think he was 219. He was throwing lasers as well, and I thought he showed good touch on the ball. And he said afterwards on the telecast and told us the same thing on set that he wanted to work on the intermediate throws and layering those balls better, and that looked like what he was able to do.
Yeah, you can tell. And he played the longest out of any of these college players because they were in a national championship game. So he did a phenomenal job, I thought, from that game and what we saw in the fall to going and work wherever he worked at with whatever quarterback coach he was working with or wherever he's working out to get prepped for the combine. And he came in ready to prove a point. You can tell the footwork, everything was in rhythm today, even though he hasn't worked with any of these receivers.
Yep.
So I was very impressed, not only with his charisma as a leader, but also all the work he put in to come out and perform like he performed today.
I think both he, JJ, and Michael Penix work with John Beck, the quarterback's coach. So just to put a bow on that. But your other point, and you talked about this at the Ohio State Pro Day last year, seeing CJ Stroud out there who didn't work out till the end of the workout out there, high-fiving his teammates, the offensive linemen as they worked out. JJ was all over the field, running up and down the field, high-fiving guys. He was out there high-fiving Xavier Worthy after he ran the record-breaking 4.21. Is that something you noticed, or is that?
Yeah, no, and it's but you got to make sure it's not false leadership. But I don't think it is with him because you've seen that when he was at Michigan, and it continues to show up here.
So I think the takeaway here is that if you roll the ball out, pick it up and throw it.
Yes, that's what you get paid to do.
All right. Well, they're not getting paid. You keep saying that they're not getting paid.
Are they going to get paid?
If they
did they have NIL deals?
But not for this, but for other things.
Yeah.
Okay. Technically, yes, they got paid, Rick. All right. There are no losers on the quarterback front. They were all winners. So that's great. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We're going to talk about some poppers and droppers with the wide receivers. And Rick, I'm not going to lie, they're mostly poppers. We'll talk about that right after this. All right, Rick. We talked about Xavier Worthy, 4.21. Adonai Mitchell, 4.34. Let me make sure these are official. Yes. Brian Thomas Jr., 4.33. Tez Walker, 4.36. What is going on? And these are all guys we had on our list. We talked about Xavier Worthy already. I'll go to Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver out of Texas. And let me just make sure I get the numbers right. So the 4.34 40, and then his vertical was only 39.5 inches. His broad jump was 11 feet 4 inches. Oh boy,
it's 39.5. You're saying bad?
No, I'm kidding. It's
okay.
It's incredibly insane.
So you're trying to be sarcastic like me. It's not working for you, but
it's not working for me. All right, explain. You laugh at your own jokes yet again. Explain a broad jump of 11 feet 4 inches.
That is an explosive jump, and not only the 40 time, but his ability to explode like that will translate to what he does running routes, what he does when he goes up and potentially gets in contested situations. Those are the things you're looking for in an explosive playmaker.
6'2", 205. I mean, he's big enough to go up against the most physical wide receiver, the cornerbacks, excuse me. We've talked about him as a first-round pick, maybe even a fringe first-round pick for months now, and it feels like he's going to continue to be in that conversation.
Yeah, when we talked about him earlier, he was a kid that transferred from Georgia, never really got on the field much at Georgia, and then came onto the scene in Texas and had a great year. But I think he is a type of kid that's going to continue to ascend, and I think teams are going to try to project that this guy is going to be a really good player, solid number 2, maybe even eventually turning into a 1.
Brian Thomas Jr. at LSU. We spent a lot of time talking about Jaden Daniels and, of course, Malik Neighbors. We talked to those guys on set yesterday, and they all said they were the fastest person on that team. Rick, only one of them ran today at the combine, so we know who the fastest is.
Yeah, and I don't care if those guys go and run at LSU, but Brian Thomas Jr. will officially be the fastest player coming out at LSU because he came down here and did that at the combine. And back in the day, when there was turf fields and grass fields and some guys ran on track,
yeah,
we kept the times the same at the combine, but if they ran on those old turf fields, we would add a 10th to their time. And if they ran on a track, because they didn't have the synthetic surfaces they have now at all these colleges, we would add a 10th and a half. So some kid would say, hey, I ran a 4.45. Well, guess what? It's a 4.6 when we convert it. So
show up and run when we throw the ball out. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
4.33 for Brian Thomas Jr., 38.5 vertical, 10 feet 6 inch on his broad jump, and he's 6'3", 209. And you say he's in the mix for wide receiver 3, I believe?
Yeah. This is a great, because it was fun to watch him, although he didn't participate in any of the routes. So Odunze did.
He has very sticky hands.
And he was very good running routes for a big receiver. I really thought he got into and out of his cuts, and excellent hands. And you can see how natural he is plucking the ball out of the air. So I was going back and forth, and I thought that Brian Thomas Jr. was closing in on him.
Mm-hmm.
But then I watched Odunze and the way he worked out and did everything today and ran fast enough.
4.47, I believe, unofficially.
Yeah, so that's going to be an interesting battle on how teams have these two receivers stacked on their board.
It feels like right now Odunze is a more polished route runner.
I would say that, but Brian Thomas Jr. may have more upside.
No, I get that part. What do you got there, Debo? Rome Odunze is the only player left on the field right now because he won't leave until he gets 6'6" in the 3-cone drill. Is he still there? Is he going to be able to go home?
Okay, he's he's up on number 3 on my list.
So that tells me he probably got it several times during working out. He's not out there just hoping against hope. He's just trying to get it here.
Yeah, and that tells you, again, what you can't see on tape, but what you see when they're doing things like that, it's the competitiveness.
We talked to him this week. Incredibly sharp, incredibly humble. He went to high school in Las Vegas. He's on Dorian Thompson-Robbins' high school team. He was with Cedric Tillman. He was with Jalen Naylor. He had to sit behind those guys. Does that mean anything to you that he was patient?
No.
Right.
No. Just, yeah. You're trying to pick things that aren't there.
Am I?
Yeah.
Oh, we talk to Alabama kids all the time about being patient.
Yeah. Well, when they can be patient, but they take advantage of it once they get their opportunity, and he's one that did.
All right, Tez Walker took advantage of this opportunity because Senior Bowl, he would like to erase from everyone's memory. He struggled with drops. He struggled in the one-on-ones, and this combine made up for that in a huge way. He had the best vertical of the guys we've talked about so far, 40.5 inches, which is bonkers, 4.36, 11.2 in the broad jump. He's 6'1.5", 193, 33-inch arms. He's the guy that you built in the lab, Rick, and he caught everything in the gauntlet drill.
Yeah, and I watched him through the rest of he didn't drop a ball, what I saw before I came over here to do this. His hands were much more natural than I thought we saw down at the Senior Bowl, where he seemed to struggle, and his hands seemed hard. But here, he just looked like a natural hands catcher. I still think he needs some route work, but there's no question about the speed. And I was very happy for the kid because of the performance at the Senior Bowl, as far as the drops, and him going back, working on what he needed to work on, and again, showed out here at the combine, and kudos to him.
Absolutely. I think I still have him outside the top 100. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, he might jump in that 3rd round now.
Yeah.
The way he ran and the way he worked out today, that could move him back into the 3rd round mix.
And finally, you'll be happy to hear this name. Someone I spoke with earlier a few weeks ago. We had Mike Renner on the show, and Mike less so, but you certainly made fun of me. Anthony Gold, Oregon State wide receiver. I'll give you the numbers that you won't like. 5'8", 174, 29-inch arms. I don't care about that.
Okay.
But 4.39, 1.49 in the 10-yard split, which is better than any of the guys we talked about. And I Does it necessarily matter if you're the size and running 10 yards straight ahead?
No.
Okay. 39.5-inch vertical for 5'8", 10.9 in the broad jump.
Yeah, no, he had a great workout. There was no question about his explosive athleticism, and he does run on tape. I just think he is a better athlete than maybe just a true, you're trying to put him in a Tank Dell category, and I don't think he's Tank Dell.
He did well in the drills too, I thought.
Yeah, no, he caught the bell well, but I still think he's a little stiff through his lower, getting in and out of his cuts for a smaller guy. And he prefers to catch in tight, which is fine because he caught everything today.
Right. He's not third round for me.
No, he would be a good Saturday pick.
Right. Where Tank went in the third round, and Tank probably he should have gone higher knowing what we know now, but right, exactly. All right. I'm not going to call Keon Coleman a dropper. I just want to note Keon Coleman ran a 4.61. He's not yet 21 years old. He's another guy we talked to who had very high confidence, and understandably so when you saw him. But I did wonder watching him play if he could consistently stack cornerbacks, because he wasn't able to do it a lot on tape, but he would just high point catch Michael Jordan them, to use a basketball phrase, not very well. But
where are we going with?
Here's where we're going.
Are you talking about going up for 50-50 balls and contested catches?
Thank you. That's
okay.
That's what I was trying to get.
Okay, now we can start using. Yeah, I watched him. I thought he was really good at Michael Jordan at DB.
I know what I mean. Posterized. That's what I was trying to get to. And it's bad we're in the point of the week where you're correcting me about how to say things. So 4.61, the second slowest 40 time of all the wide receivers, but he ran the fastest time, at least up to the time that I saw the next gen stat on the gauntlet drill at over 20 miles an hour. And I believe he caught everything thrown his way, and he looked a lot like he did on tape.
And this is an example of a player that's going to have a very productive career. I still think he's going to go somewhere in the bottom of the first, top of the second round. And just because you don't run in a straight line fast, but all of a sudden he has to run routes and he has to catch the ball. He is almost like we talked about Brian Branch last year.
Yeah.
He may not run as fast as you want straight in the 40, but when he's doing football movement skills, there is no question that you can see the explosiveness in his movements.
Yeah, you went with Brian Branch. I thought you were going to go with Puka Spielman, who ran a 4.58.
But Puka plays a lot faster than that.
And that's the faster than Keon, you mean?
Yeah. No, I think Keon plays as fast as Puka or faster.
Right. So maybe that's the lesson we take away from that. Puka may have ran a 4.55. The point is he didn't set the 40 ablaze, but we saw the clip where Les Snead and Sean McVay went to look at his tracker time where he played fast.
Right. And that's the thing. And that's what is a huge advantage now for some of these guys that may run slower than they want. But when you put that GPS tracker on them, you can see what their game speed is. And a lot of times guys play faster than their time speed.
Our buddy Charles Davis made this point during the telecast about Keon Coleman's gauntlet drill. When you're running that fast, you trust your hands because you don't have to worry about everything else around you.
Yeah, no. And there's no question about his hands, and there's no question about his Michael Jordaning.
Posterizing.
Yeah. Is that what that is too?
You know what that means, posterizing?
No, I have no.
Putting him on a poster. Puka ran 4.57 according to Debo. So that's not.
And he plays a lot faster than that. And I think Coleman will do the same.
Retrospect, should Puka have been a first round pick?
No.
No, we know now you still wouldn't take him in the first round?
Let's not put him in the Hall of Fame yet. He is a very good player, but let's see how the career ends.
Puka Spielman has spoken. All right.
I like him. Why do you keep saying I don't like him?
I like him.
No.
All right. Well, he set you up. He's going to put that now that's on the Rick talk, and now you got to answer questions about that. All right, Rick. While Debo puts that on the social medias, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and look at the running backs who also took part in this combine earlier today, but we'll do that right after this. All right, Rick, let's start with the good news. Two players who have interesting backstories. Trey Benson had the horrific knee injury at Oregon. He apparently didn't know that because he ran a 4.39
at almost, I think, 219 pounds.
I'll double check his height and weight, but he ran exactly like he played during the season. Did you think he was going to be a 4.39 guy though?
I thought he was going to be fast, but that's moving for his size, because you see that on tape. You see how many times he gets out into the open field and he can outrun angles. And he's a big back. I guess the biggest, if I have to poke a hole in his game right now, just being a little bit more patient inside, because sometimes he had a tendency to bounce a little bit too quick because he knows he's fast. But what a great success story on this kid coming back from the knee injury that he did and having the season he had at Florida State and now performing here as well as he did at the combine.
6'0", 216, 4.39 that I mentioned, the 1.52 10-yard split, 33.5 vertical, 10.2 broad. Those numbers are all things that you don't have to worry about if you're trying to check boxes. Is he your running back one?
I am having a tough time deciding between him and Jalen Wright at Tennessee,
who ran a 4.38 today.
Yeah, and I was like going back and forth between the two. But I gave credit to Trey just because of the devastating knee and how he's came back from that, and the adversity he had to go through to get back.
And the hesitation I'm asking about Jonathan Brooks out of Texas is that he's coming off the ACL.
Yeah, I don't know what the medical is on him or when he'll be ready.
Because had he been healthy, he very easily could have been in that conversation.
Yes.
Second round pick for either of those, Jalen and.
I think it'll depend on how the board falls and how team needs are. And but I think they'll for sure be Friday guys. But if someone's looking for a running back, I think Wright and Benson, and unfortunately Brooks has the ACL, but all those three will be considered in the second round.
All right. The guy I was impressed with today for a number of reasons. He ran a 4.52, which is fast enough for a running back. I don't care about that. The 1.56 10-yard split certainly helps. 35-inch vertical get your attention as well. 5'8", 211, Ray Davis out of Kentucky. He ran for over 1,000 yards at Kentucky, ran for over 1,000 yards at Vanderbilt. He played at Temple, I believe, prior to that, dominated there. And his backstory, Rick, when we talked about this in HQ, he was in foster care and homeless as a 12-year-old, and he somehow had the fortitude to overcome that, which is in and of itself an amazing story. Not only that, he's going to get drafted. He's going to play in the NFL, and he had a fantastic career at Kentucky. And all that taken together, it's hard not to love this kid.
Yeah, and then you add on the performance he put on at the Senior Bowl, and that, to me, he was the best running back at the Senior Bowl. And then all he's had to overcome in his life, that tells you the kid's nothing but a winner. And no matter what comes his way, he's going to fight through it. Even when he gets to the NFL level, and it's just an incredible story. And those are the stories that need to be told because not only do you root for the kid on what he does on the field, but you root for the kid and everything he had to overcome as he was growing up.
So, excuse me, I don't want to call Audric Estime a drop, but I do want to note that he ran a 4.71, and I do also want to qualify that by saying that Kyron Williams a few years ago ran in the 4.7s.
And he's pretty good.
And he's pretty good. He ended up going on day 3. I think Estime probably was going to go on day 3 anyway. So I don't know if this matters much in terms of his NFL future. Maybe he goes in round 6 instead of round 5. I don't know. But he was 5'11", 221, which is exactly how he looks like he played. So 4.71, but a 1.58 10-yard split. Does that mean anything?
Yeah, no. Well, the 10-yard split tells you that he's quicker than fast. And then you throw on that Stanford game where he rushed for, I think, over 230 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's a singles and doubles hitter to me. Maybe not the home run threat once he gets in the open field. But I think a guy like this, if he gets the touches he needs to get, he's going to wear defenses down. And, as I was thinking through, they're like Jamal Williams. When you get near the goal line, you remember the magic year he had in Detroit with all the touchdowns.
Right.
This is the type of kid you want to give the ball to when he's near the goal line, when your offense is near the goal line.
And you talk about quicker than fast, 38-inch vertical, which gives you a sense of the explosiveness near the line of scrimmage, and 10.5 broad jump also in the same range as the explosive wide receivers we've talked about previously. The only other name I'll mention is Dylan Johnson, and he gutted it out in the national title game, the Washington running back. He was hurt in that game, and he still came out there and competed. I know that's a big thing for you. He ran a 4.68. I don't necessarily care. He's a big running back. I didn't think he was going to run a 4.3 anyway. So he's 6 feet, 217, similar, few pounds less than what we saw from Estime, that similar type player. Not as explosive, 1.62, 10-yard split. The vertical was only 31.5 inches, but I feel like he was a day 3 guy coming in. He's still a day 3 guy, and he's going to be a guy who comes in and does a couple series as a power back, and that's not a surprise, right?
No, and all these teams now going running back by committee, they have different flavors. some big power backs like this, especially in short yardage situations. 4-minute offense where you want to try to control the clock, try to get first downs at the end of a game. So these are the type of backs that I think teams will fall in love with as far as late Saturday as draft picks, because they'll have a role on the offense.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty exciting combine.
It was a great combine.
It was fun. The
For the
4-2-1,
combine players that participated,
which includes Xavier Worthy, who was he's the combine MVP according to With the First Pick. Runner up with Spencer Rattler. Shout out to Spencer Rattler. This is going to be a thing.
Oh boy, what and which way? Interviews?
Yeah, who was your favorite player that you talked to? I know who it is. If you forget,
I know who it is.
who is it?
It was either me sharing a ginger beer with Caleb Williams.
That was a good one.
It was JJ McCarthy and us being able to bond on set.
Yeah, that was gross.
But the all-time favorite has to be Jackson Powers Johnson, who was maybe the best personality that we had on a set all week.
Yeah, he has a future as a stand-up comedian. He critiques your drip.
I thought it was dip. It's drip.
Dip for you, trip for everyone else. You left him hanging in the worst way possible. He tried to fist bump you. You just stared at him like you didn't know what planet he was from. I don't know what that was about. And then, unfortunately, Debo turned the camera off after everyone finished, and you could have ruined Jackson Powers Johnson's career. You chest bumped the guy, and you didn't tell him. Luckily, he's a fantastic athlete. You almost sent him off the stage reeling and tore both ACL. So you avoided a major lawsuit there.
And with my
oh boy,
60-year-old athleticism to be able to knock him off stage.
That's true.
And the body control I had when I was midair with my 22.5-inch vertical, I was able to prevent that poor kid from potentially being injured.
I thought I could see your 22.
And I didn't want him to like get ticked off and then try to maul me like he does every defensive tackle that is in front
he was
of him.
incredibly mild-mannered for being such a violent player. He was fun, absolutely. My favorite moment, I'll be talking this forever, Spencer Rattler calling you out.
Yeah, that was also one of my highlights as well.
And of course, our buddy Pete Prisco said that you were stuttering and very afraid after you saw him. And I can't confirm that, but
you were right there. So you got to watch Pete Prisco. He has a tendency to elaborate on a lot of things and exaggerate on a lot of things.
All right, Rick, we did it. The combine in the books. No one killed the other. Debo survived as well. And luckily, Debo's going to have us come back on Monday. And what are we doing Monday, Debo? Okay, we're going to recap the combine.
Just like we just did now.
Just like we did now. And then on Wednesday, everybody.
But we'll be able to add in some of the offensive linemen.
Yeah, and we should have all the numbers as well. And then Rick likes to start stacking the board. So we'll do the buckets of players as we get closer. Oh, God, and the pro days are coming up, too, so I have to talk about that. And then on Wednesday, everybody, Charles Davis is coming along for a mock draft show, Debo. Charles Davis.
Are we doing a 7-round mock?
8. 3-round mock? Oh, we're doing. Oh, gosh. You frightened me. All right. That's it, Rick. Thanks to all you guys who watch and listen and subscribe. And you've been very generous with your comments. So Rick appreciates that. He's very sensitive. I don't care either way. But for Debo and Rick, see you guys on Monday. Oh, no. Oh, no.